Well, first I met Sándor Erdély, the founder of DBH. That was, I think, in 1994. At that time, Sándor did his MBA at Maastricht School of Management. And in his last week, before leaving back to Debrecen, where he came from, was active for the city government, I was introduced to him by a friend of mine, Mr. Hubert Groten, managing director of marketing high-tech projects, and he said, well, I have an Hungarian guy who did an internship in my company, and I would like to meet him, if it's interesting for you to meet with him. That's why I met Mr. Erdély, or Sándor, meanwhile, in 1994. Well, first of all, Sándor came to my office in the regional government, would like to know more what the regional government is doing, let's say, in general in the Netherlands. And in that conversation, we were discussing, and I said, perhaps it's interesting to start a kind of hub in Limburg for doing business between the Netherlands, Limburg, the Netherlands, and Hajdú-Bihar, the region where Sándor came from. And that was the start of our discussion. We went to the city of Maastricht asking for some support, because that was a time that the city of Maastricht was establishing international institutes as part of their international city policy. And that was the start of the discussion. Sándor went back home with an offer of the city of Maastricht to establish a hub. It was discussed in the city council in Debrecen. And then the mayor called me saying, you had a conversation with one of my cooperators, Mr. Erdély, and we decided to establish a bridgehead in Limburg. That was in fact the start of the project. So Sándor managed to organize support and also financial support on the Hungarian side, and I was responsible for organizing the support on the Dutch side. We founded an organization. Sándor called it Development Bridgehead, still has the name. It was a foundation at the beginning, but really as from the first day on, it was a foundation, but with a business goal. So we had to make a business out of it within 3 years. There was financial support for 3 years, but from the very first day, it was meant to make a business out of it. And looking back, I can say that it was one of the most successful projects we supported as a regional government. I think at that time, when DBH was founded, that was the time where Eastern Europe in general was very much in the picture. And also the city of Maastricht had already plans to establish a center for Eastern Europe. And Sándor cooperated very well with that center, but Sándor had a different goal. Sándor had a business-driven goal, and I think he managed extremely well in doing business. For instance, in the past years, past decades, 2 decades already, I think approximately he had contact with 400 companies in Limburg. It's a relatively small region, and even there 400 companies is a lot. And from those 400 companies, approximately 40 companies he really had a business relation with, which I think is very extremely good for at that time a relatively small organization. And it's still growing. Sándor did not stop in Limburg. He exploited the rest of the Netherlands, the rest of Hungary, and the rest is history, more or less. Now he's active more or less all over the world. So looking back, I can say that it was one of the most successful projects we ever supported as a regional government.